Ask anyone why they watch anything movies, TV, YouTube, and you hear the usual answers entertainment, escapism, story, characters, action, all of that. And those are perfectly good reasons. But there is another one, far less often admitted, yet widely felt the need to have something running. To fill the silence, to give the brain a chew toy, to plug the void. As we cook, as we clean, or sit alone in the dark, we often reach for noise, any noise, to soften that silence. I cannot take my daily walk anymore without music. It's less about listening and more about filling the air. But, like any habit, this comfort can be overdone. What begins as a coping mechanism, something to get us through the day, can become an obstacle, preventing us from branching out or exploring beyond our comfort. And obviously, it's fine, right? If rewatching the same show for the dozenth time is the worst thing you do all day, you're doing great. But it's still a bit sad in a way, because while there is a time and a need for comfort, it ideally should not be our default. So during our lazy evenings, we could look to grow and explore, not just numb ourselves into a stupor. The desire for novelty and stimulation is as natural and essential as the desire for familiarity and comfort. So, how do we make the habit of rewatching more balanced, more nuanced, and less stifling? And why does rewatching feel good in the first place? There is a peculiar luxury in watching without caring. When you already know the story, every plot line, every punchline, there is no pressure to pay attention. The stakes vanish, so you can zone out, scroll TikTok, step away to stir the tea, and you don't miss anything important. More than that, you don't need to mentally or emotionally engage. A beloved character dies, you saw it coming. Even the saddest moments lose their sting, dulled by familiarity. And more than that, when someone rewatches, it's fair to assume that they also deeply enjoy it, right? Why else spend so much time on it? And if they enjoy it, they probably also have every scene imprinted in their mind. It's cyclic. You love something, you consume it repeatedly, and eventually it becomes part of your mental furniture. Always accessible, always satisfying, in a shallow, almost mindless way. There is a big reason why rewatching is so fun. Because simply put, it's addictive. It's easy, it's comfortable, and it's a relief. No effort, no stress, no uncertainty, no need to invest. But comfort can become a trap. The safer and simpler it is to indulge in what you already know, the easy it is to stop seeking newness or growth, to opt for hollow predictability instead of seeking out something unfamiliar. The space between healthy detachment and dull routine is thin, and crossing it means giving up more than just novelty. It means relinquishing the joy and inevitable discomfort that comes from caring deeply. This part is obvious and self explanatory. There is an undeniable appeal in knowing what's coming next, seeing characters and plots we already know and have a relationship with, to know how everything works out and how you're supposed to feel at every step. It's soothing, it's familiar stories, characters, and settings that create a safe mental space where the brain feels at ease. This safety comes from predictability, and knowing what's going to happen reduces anxiety and uncertainty, which is calming, especially when real life feels anything but. And that right there is the reason. We rewatch, re-listen, and reread because it's simply relaxing in a world where relaxation is often hard to find. When we are surrounded by news, work, and life, re-experiencing something already beloved becomes a welcome and much needed escape. It's a mental breather, a soothing balm, and of course, nostalgia plays a part too. It doesn't have to be SpongeBob, it doesn't need to be Friends. Nostalgia can be rewatching a show you saw just a month ago, maybe during Christmas, when you weren't alone and feeling a bit sad. In that moment, reminiscing feels good because it carries you back to a time where things were brighter and you want to revisit. We crave comfort like hunger, a primal need to feel safe, known, and soothed. Familiarity wraps us in a warm blanket, softening the sharp edges of daily stress and uncertainty. But like every craving, taken too far, this can bind rather than free. Take me for example. No joke, I have watched the first season of Stranger Things way too many times. I love it. But here's the thing, the last time I watched it, I kind of mentally checked out halfway through an episode. I just sat there, slouched in front of the TV, eyes glazed over. I wasn't really watching, wasn't really paying attention at all. I just wanted the sound because it was comforting. And it felt hollow, unsatisfying. That's when I knew that I had gone too far, that I had rewatched enough. So I scrolled back and picked a new show gathering dust on my Netflix list, something I had never watched before, something completely new and novel. And the first two episodes were amazing. But it was around the third that it happened. The story was intense, gripping, but I just wanted to close my eyes, turn it off, and go back to Stranger Things. This was a bit of an eye-opener, because I realized that I was choosing to miss out on something new and exciting because it took slightly more mental energy. In the past few months, I have consciously made a choice to tune into the cozy comfort of the familiar when I need to, but to also actively seek something new and unknown. To not let comfort become the only thing I crave. Hedonic adaptation is a well documented psychological phenomena that explains our tendency to revert back to the same baseline level of happiness no matter what happens. Everyone has that one pair of sweats, that one blanket, that one show they return to again and again for when things are rough, when a dose of comfort is desperately needed. But again, here's the catch, right? That the more often you go back, the less magic it holds. What once soothed you starts to fade into background noise. The blanket starts to fray, starts to feel thin, the sweats more worn, the show less alive. Comfort becomes routine, and routine, as it often does, becomes numbness. And because hedonic adaptation resets the baseline, chasing comfort never really pushes us forward. It just props us up. In contrast, novelty, new stories, new art, new risks can jolt us, even briefly above that baseline. It can stick, and then it starts to matter. This is often described psychologically as a novelty bonus. Our brains are wired to pay extra attention to new experiences, to encode them more vividly into memory. That's why you remember the first time you traveled somewhere, but rarely the 15th. Familiarity might soothe us, but novelty shapes us. No one can tell you what to watch, read, play, or listen to, and no one should. But like many people, I've also come to learn that too much comfort can be a trap. The cost of always seeking the known, the expected, is stagnation. And that's the key word. Because it's when the rewatch becomes the default, when the new and exciting becomes secondary to the already known, that it can become concerning. Because comfort should always be a choice, an active decision, not a reflex, a refuge, not a cage. By all means, rewatch, re-listen, reread. for the joy, for the nostalgia, for the warmth. But let's also leave room for the unknown too. Because the unknown is where the real stuff lives. The growth, the spark, the sharp edge, and the stories you haven't memorized yet. In the end, it's never about abandoning comfort. It's about making sure we choose it for the right reasons. If you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing and thank you for watching.